is to voluntarily pair up with anybody that you feel comfortable with. And again, nobody has to do this. But go and have this experience right here in the room. Just find a corner someplace and do this with somebody. I'll give you the instructions again. Just spread out if you feel like it. If you don't, just stay where you are. You will not be fined or punished or anything like that. Okay, keep it simple. Okay, make physical contact, make good eye contact, and then just share one word at a time, just back and forth. And whoever wants to start, starts. Keep your eye contact. Keep your eye contact. Okay, terrific. You can sit down, please. Okay, so how was that for y'all? Anybody? Anybody? Interesting? Sweet?
Connected.
Another way.
Connected.
Connected?
That's what we said.
Okay.
I have a feeling, even when watching you, Betsy, that there was one that was leading and one that was following. I thought that as well.
Okay.
At certain points.
Yeah, it's a bit of a dance. Yes.
You said what I was saying, it's like a serpent.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes.
Everybody else left.
Yes.
Lots of people in the room.
Exactly. It's called a relationship, just so you
Our
know.
relationship is relatively just gonna forever, for a second.
Yes. New and alive.
Vulnerable.
It's awkward. Awkward.
Vulnerable.
Vulnerable. Yes. For that?
When we went up into our heads, it changed and became difficult, and as soon as we let that go, then it flowed.
Yes. It's a lot of work to do that, isn't it? It's like, what's the right word to say now? I better do this correctly. There's cameras everywhere. Yes.
Felt neutral.
Okay.
And I kept laughing a lot.
Laughing. Okay, did you get the experience of at some point clearly two separate individuals involved and some third thing? It may come and go, but there were experiences just briefly or extended of a third thing. You understand what I'm saying? Okay? What happened to the other?
Became relativized.
Became relativized. Clearly I was there, clearly the other person was there, and I don't quite know where I stopped and the other person began. The artificial construct of other falls away. Now, guess what? You can do this anywhere, anytime, in one form or another, if you can allow yourself. And as Radiah said, a lot of it has to do with like getting out of our heads and being able to maintain the intimacy. I mean, it's a riot when I do this with couples in my office. So many of them have huge difficulty being able to maintain eye contact So they're bouncing off and laughing, and he's like, this is way too, you know, we're here to break up this marriage, and I'm having a connection, and I'm not sure I want it. Now, wouldn't it be cool if we could go around the world and have the world leaders do this with one another? Fantasies, what can I say? Now, except there's a sense in which we are forcing ourselves into some version of this intimacy, whether we like it or not. We're being driven by our own behaviors, our own fears, our own defenses, and our own need for the missing part to come into some kind of intimate contact. The problem is we're trying to do it and be totally safe at the same time. I was just reading the paper this morning about, they're trying to do the Middle East talks again. And I just have fantasies about how, at some level, there's this huge desire for the connection. And there's just this even greater terror of it. Because if I can't keep you in the other status, I'm going to have to change. And I'm not sure I want to be changed. I'm not sure I want to be touched. I'm not sure I want to be relativized. I'm not sure I want that kind of vulnerability. Even if it's possible, maybe even especially if it's possible to have the intimacy at the same time. A friend of mine has a great question. He says, how much life can you stand? Now, the trickster comes into these situations of artificially constructed boundary things and reopens the connection. If we can recognize it, if we can allow it, if we can endure it, and it's available, we can practice this at various levels of safety. Okay? Believe it or not, you can do it with the chair that you're sitting in at this moment. You actually can't have, the chair is clearly othered, right? Anybody have a problem with the chair being othered? Anybody says no, we think they're crazy. But then if you start to think about the relationship you have with the other that we're calling the chair, something begins to shift. The chair is still clearly the chair, I'm still clearly me, and this third thing begins to happen. It's called a relationship. Okay, I think I've pushed this about as far as I can. We have a couple minutes left for questions. Anybody have anything they want to ask or say about this crazy idea? Yes?
Well, I'm not so sure whether the other exists or doesn't exist. Because at the beginning you said that it's an illusion, that it doesn't exist. But then we talk about a connection.
Yes.
You have to have a connection with something else. That
Exactly.
So it does exist or it doesn't exist or what?
No, I think that's a perfect question. Because what I'm trying to articulate at some level and trying to give us the experience of is that what we think of as this firm boundary starts to get relativized.
But it doesn't disappear.
It doesn't entirely disappear. Now, I think it's possible for it to disappear. And I'll give you the number one example that we have. It's called sex. And I think anybody, and I don't need to raise your hands here, if you've been lucky enough to have a great sexual experience with another human being, it takes our exercise to a whole different level.
But if I have sex with your wife, it will be the other.
If you have great sex with my wife, both of you will disappear. And I think that the greater truth is that universal unity. And what we do is we keep bringing back the separateness because we get nervous.
That's a mystical experiment.
Yes, it really is. But that to me is the nature, the literal nature of the universe. is that everything is connected to everything. And this idea that somehow I'm separate is really mostly bullshit. It's a technical term, I'll explain it to you. Joe?
Somewhat along the same line of the, the sort of paradox of, is there ever enough?
Yeah,
In your story about the cow,
yeah.
Trickster was really moving to recreate a separation between the two to overcome the false friendship between the two.
Yes, and in the process, the third thing that would become now is the idea of a new relationship that doesn't limit itself to those one-sided points of view. So then theoretically, the next time they were, if somebody says, I had this experience, no, I had this experience, I don't have to kill you. It's nice if we have disagreements and nobody has to die. And in fact, the idea that, oh, maybe there's a third place. I mean, this is Jung's tension of the opposites. Because that's really what we're talking about. Anytime one of these dynamics shows up, we've got two polarities. And you're carrying one end of the polarity and I'm carrying the other. And if I identify with mine, then I have to wipe yours out. Or else I'm afraid I'll be wiped out. As opposed to the idea that a third thing that is inclusive of both our experiences. Yes?
But the other truth is, the more I, as an individual, come to those pairs of opposites and reconcile them, the more that does not exist in the world for me. So I can expand